Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be making a little movie chat, and it's going to be about movies that made me feel uncomfortable and I probably won't watch them again. First things first, I wanted to address why does a movie make you feel uncomfortable. Usually it can be tied to the subject that the movie is trying to tell or the way that a scene is portrayed. The thing is that these types of movies, they want to touch the wound. They want you to acknowledge what's happening on screen and not feel okay about it, so you can get a new perspective of the situation. Also, it's not a bad thing for a movie to make you feel like this. It can be challenging, but whenever I decide to watch something that deals with a heavy subject, I try to go thinking that I'll learn something new or that I'll get an experience that I can only get if I get out of my comfort zone. The idea with this video is to talk about why these movies are good in what they set out to be and why you should watch them or any other uncomfy movie that you can think of. I'm not saying to go watch the most terrifying thing you can find. Please respect your boundaries. Even I have movies that I just don't want to watch it. Now that I said everything, let's start with the first movie that make me feel uncomfortable, and I can already hear the giggles coming out of some of you, but I can also see people understanding why this was an uncomfortable movie. And that is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the Tim Burton version. A young boy wins a tour through the most magnificent chocolate factory in the world, led by the world's most unusual candy maker. Alright, I need to set out a little backstory so you can understand my reasons why this movie made me feel uncomfortable. I first watched this movie when I was 6 years old. My dad took me to the theater to watch it with my friend, and I got out of that movie feeling terrified. You see, for a kid to watch what goes through the kids in this movie, I thought that what was happening to the kids on screen was going to happen to me. I don't know how that makes logical sense, but that was what my kid brain thought. And so I was terrified for life. And also, it doesn't help the looks of Willy Wonka. What the hell they were thinking when they put that man in that costume? It is terrifying to this day. But also, I think that you can't blame me for feeling like that, because what happened to those kids is sick and kind of twisted, even though there's a whole reasoning why they go through that, of course. But as a kid, I didn't know that. It's not like I can watch it, I can even see an image of this movie. If I couldn't do that, I would not even be talking about it. But I just don't need to go through some things again, because they really give me not a nice feeling, especially the one of the chocolate river. As an adult, you can really see that the meaning on showing those scenarios is to teach kids that every action has consequences, to not pursue bad behavior, and to appreciate what you have. Also, I unconsciously got these sunglasses when I was a kid, and you can definitely see that it looks like the Willy Wonka glasses. It's right there. How come I did not know this until years that I had this? Now, next movie that I'm going to be talking about, it's called Compliance. On a particularly busy day at a suburban Ohio fast food restaurant, manager Sandra receives a phone call from a police officer saying that an employee has stolen money from a customer. What I can tell you from the synopsis, without spoiling, is that the lead-up of that phone call is outrageous in every level. It's a mix of feelings that involve anger, injustice, and disgust. It's a movie that tackles work dynamics and how one misperception of someone can lead to something bigger and darker. This is just not an easy watch, and while you stay to see how the situation will be over, it just leaves you with a bad taste in your mouth about how people act upon one another sometimes. It just got you thinking about how solidarity and common sense are just essentials for a human being to have. And I know that we feel a lot of things, and so, but it's just in this situation, there is no excuse. And the worst factor is that it's based on a true story. So it's not even fictional. Usually uncomfortable movies go more into the side of showing kind of the dark side of humanity, and this is one of these cases. Next movie that I'm going to be talking about is a recent one, and I don't think everyone feels the same way that I did, that kind of make me uncomfortable. It's fresh. Frustrated by scrolling dating apps only to end up on lame, tedious dates, Noah takes a chance by giving her number to the awkwardly charming Steve after a produce section meet-cute at the grocery store. So this is a cute one that takes a dark turn. I'll have to go into spoilers with this one, so if you haven't watched it, please feel free to skip to the next movie so you don't get spoiled about it. So yeah, the date that goes wrong because the guy is in fact someone who likes to eat people's meat. So he kidnaps her and a new fear was activated for women everywhere. I can't tell you how much this movie took me away from the thought of dating afterwards. It's just a different take, kind of extreme, on dates that go wrong, but you know, I just want to have a little bit of positivity on love. This is not a completely hard watch, but I think the fear is real, especially if you're a woman and seeing a fellow woman on screen going through that. The scenes where he cuts the meat or is just a constant threat to Noah, I just can't. It's effective about the fears of online dating or dating in general, and in incorporating this taboo topic into the mix. I'm sure this is the cup of tea for many people because it got so big when it was released, but for me, I think once was enough. Also, I never thought I would be afraid of Sebastian Stan's smile. That was terrifying. Okay, next movie that I'm going to be talking about, it's called Hard Candy. Hailey is a smart, charming teenage girl. Jeff's a handsome, smooth fashion photographer. An internet chat, a coffee shop meetup, an impromptu fashion shoot back at Jeff's place. Jeff thinks it's his lucky night. He's in for a surprise. One of the greatest things of this movie is Elliot's Page performance. He's so great in this. Without spoiling anything, I would say that the biggest thing about this movie that makes you feel uncomfortable, it's the big age gap that we have between those two characters, because why such an older man is looking for such a younger woman, like a teenager, and the use of red that represents a lot of things. There's also a shaky camera that makes things be more intense, and you know, this was divisive for me sometimes because Jeff's actions are definitely wrong, but Hailey's ways to make things right are also not exactly right. It all makes sense at the end, and it's just outstanding how this girl was so smart throughout everything. It's not the biggest uncomfy thing you're going to watch, but it's also not a fun watch. We got into a deep one, and it's Mary and Max. A tale of friendship between two unlikely pen pals, Mary, a lonely 8-year-old living in the suburbs of Melbourne, and Max, a 44-year-old man with Asperger's syndrome living in New York. This film is just so human and brutal at the same time. I know that from the synopsis it just don't sound like it, but this is probably one of the most depressing movies I've ever seen. It sounds like a cheerful tale about these two people that kind of find each other, but the path is long and just carries too many emotions. It deals with mental health, solidarity, loneliness, and what makes us human. Despite the heartwarming aspect of it, the friendship and the bond between these two people is just too much to go through it twice. It's an animation, it's made with stop motion, it's black and white with little hints of red, and I hope that you watch it, you know, because this is a beautiful movie, despite how sad and uncomfy you may feel at the end of it. Next movie I'm going to be talking about is called The Perfection. It's on Netflix, and it's a really freaking weird one. When troubled musical prodigy Charlotte seeks out Elizabeth, the new star pupil of her former school, the encounter sends both musicians down a sinister path with shocking consequences. Like I just warned you, this is a really wild and weird one. It's a roller coaster from start to finish. It does hold you on like wanting to keep watching to see what's happening, but more to the end of it is just not that enjoyable. I was just feeling a little too much uncomfortable for my taste. If you like psychological thrillers with a hint of horror, you'll probably like this one. I kinda have mixed feelings about the uncomfortable effect on this one, like if it has a deeper meaning or if it's just for shock effect. This is the wild card of the list. Feel free to go search it for yourself and watch it. I can't even remember why I felt interested in watching, but I did. Next movie we're going to be talking about is called Pleasure. 20-year-old Bella Cherry leaves her small town in Sweden for Los Angeles with the aim to become the world's next big adult star. But the road to her goal turns out to be bumpier than she imagined. It's an insight into this world that we don't know much of. The uncomfy feeling definitely comes with you seeing the risks that this girl has to take to level up and the treatment surrounding women in the industry. It's a glimpse into what it means to make and live the fantasy. The industry is ugly and Bella is trapped between moral dilemmas and ambition. There are no boundaries, which takes her from herself more and more until there is nothing. And for me, one of the most noticeable things is that when a women's perspective on making adult films is the most comfortable, somewhat connecting, and has the best human behavior with its staff of all the studios that are shown, that says something. Instead of feeling like an exclusive male fantasy, it feels like it could be something for everyone. It just seems that to find people that respect the work and respect the person that it's doing the work is 1 in a million, and that's what makes so devastating. It's not like, oh, it's only this industry. It's just that the problems with this industry, they feel a little more under your skin when you're seeing, I think. It's just a really well-made movie, and it makes you think about how things could have been different and how many industries are broken inside. The ambition of a person can be high, but it doesn't take you exactly where you're dreamed of. For some scenes in particular, I think that's why I don't want to rewatch it again. Next movie I'm going to be talking about is called Requiem for a Dream. The hopes and dreams of 4 ambitious people are shattered when their drug addictions begin spiraling out of control. A look into addiction and how it overcomes the mind and body. I think I watched this movie for the first time right when I've turned 18, because I've seen a YouTube video about recommending movies, and they said that this was one of the most brutal movies that they have ever seen, and that it had changed their view of everything of their youth. This is all stories that kind of have a fake fairy tale feel to it. It's just people living dreams that are not exactly dreams, and that they won't come off well at the end. It's just chemicals taking over your body and mind. You know, the final scene just sums it up all in this movie, and it's just such a devastating thing to watch, because there is no hope. As much as you wish for, they've hit rock bottom and there is no turning back. And the director, Darren Aronofsky, just kills it when it comes to how the scene is delivered. I had my thoughts about rewatching, but I think that I'm okay with only watching it once. It's just a case of the worst that can happen to someone, and going through that again feels brutal, despite how good the movie is. Following this movie, it's another kind of cult classic at this point, because if Requiem for a Dream is a cult classic, this one is even more, and it's 7. Two homicide detectives are on a desperate hunt for a serial killer whose crimes are based on the 7 deadly sins. This is a classic and a very good example of the uncomfortable effect done right. David Fincher is great, and just the way that he conducts this movie, it's amazing. My reasons for not wanting to see it again are really tied to those crime scenes. They are very visual. They don't really leave much room for imagination. Also, the feeling that I was left after finishing the movie was just not good. I felt really lifeless, having just watched what the worst of the human nature can do. It's a movie that has so many layers, and it has so much to unpack after a first watch, but the thought of going back at it again, it would take a lot of will from my part. I just really don't want to feel like that again, but I guess that's why it's just so good, because it really nails it with what it wanted to deliver. A good thriller with so much more than you can imagine. Almost closing off the list, let's talk about this next movie that is called The Platform, a mysterious place, an indescribable prison, a deep hole. An unknown number of levels, 2 inmates living on each level. A descending platform containing food for all of them, an inhuman fight for survival, but also an opportunity for solidarity. You know, usually movies where people have to fight for survival, I think that we have 2 types of categories into those movies. You have slashers, which they don't feel particularly hard to watch because I guess it just becomes such a part of pop culture that you already know what you're getting going to a movie like that. And then you have these ones where they wanna mess with your mind. They wanna make an argument on something, in this case, social class. Extreme consequences asks for extreme reactions, and solidarity is a choice here. Whether you take it or leave it, it's a fight for survival. The worst of the human nature again. It goes deep into those themes of solidarity and like, would you do something to help another in this situation, or would you first think of yourself? And you're just there watching and be like, wow, okay, we live in a world like this, don't we? But you know what? I still decide to be a positive person at the end of the day, because there's still a part of the world that I feel so connected to, and that it makes me think that there's good people and there's good actions and things like that, despite knowing that there's these types of behavior in some people. To close it off, I just gotta mention any World War II movie, I just can't. It's one watch and period. I can't go through that again, through that experiencing of seeing something that was real and that was extremely brutal, that happened to people. I saw Schindler's List once, not gonna see it again, I'm fine with that. Even The Boy with Striped Pajamas, I'm like, you know what, I know that that movie is a heartwarming story in some levels, like of friendship, but I can't with the end of that movie. So those were the movies that made me feel uncomfortable, and I probably won't watch it again. I know that there's a lot more worse movies out there that can really wreck your soul, but you know, this is the ones for me, at least at the moment, and I would definitely like to hear your guys' opinion, or like, what movie made you feel the most uncomfortable and why? I know that we have directors who are more targeted at making these types of movies, like Gaspar Noé, Lars von Trier, even Pedro Almodóvar, but I haven't got too many movies of them yet. That's why I don't have any movie of them in my list. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you enjoyed the idea of it. Maybe I can make more into other topics. That's always what I'm looking for, talking about movies and making a video with different subjects. Thank you for watching. I hope that you had a fun time, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!